Alright guys, this is Justin Green. Welcome to the first series I'm going to be starting called Let's Edit. I'm going to try to start doing one of these every week if at all possible. This one is kind of my pilot, so it's going to be a little rough. The more I do it, the better I'll get and get everything dialed in as far as sound, the audio, and all that. But what we're going to do is I'm going to try to do once every week, take a picture that I've shot throughout the week, and going to try to show you the process that I use to edit these photos. Um, just like any kind of artistic um, development, there's going to be multiple ways. Everybody's going to do it different. So this is going to be how I do that, and this is going to be the style of the picture that I'm looking to do. So if there's something that you don't agree with or something you see that I did that you don't like, I apologize. Like I said, this is just how I'm going to edit these individual pictures to the way that I think they look the best for me personally. But hopefully some of you all that are watching this will see kind of how the editing process goes. If it's something that you're interested in, maybe something that I do or something that you see me do may help you out. And that's kind of what my whole purpose of this is kind of helping somebody. I'm fairly new to photography and editing myself. I've only been doing this about a year, so there's still a lot of things that I don't know. And I will tell you, there's a lot of rules and guidelines that goes along with photography that I sometimes don't follow, and some of them I still don't know. But that is the good thing about this is it's what you want it to be and not what everyone else does. So let's go ahead and dive down, and we'll start on the first picture for the first episode of Let's Edit. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Lightroom. 90% of the photos I take are going to be edited in Lightroom on top of Photoshop as well. But for today's edit, we're only going to be doing Lightroom. So let's go to Library. As you can see, this picture here is what we're going to be working with today. I've already edited it. It's already been on my Instagram and Facebook. Um, I got a really good response out of this picture, so I figured I would go ahead and show you guys how we're going to edit that. Um, this is what the final is looked like. We're going to try to get back to this, so keep your fingers crossed and let's see. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go up here to the Develop tab, and that's what brings you into having all your tools to shoot with, there's tools to edit this with. So here we go. Let's go ahead and hit reset, and there you go, guys. That's what the original image straight out of the camera looked like. I used a Canon M5. I just got a new camera not too long ago. It is a camera mirrorless system. It is my first mirrorless, and so far I absolutely love it. The camera is tiny. It's great for, if you're going to be shooting all day, it's great to have around your neck. It doesn't weigh a ton, and I feel that it gets very good quality images. I was shooting with a Canon T6i, so I feel like I did upgrade from that without spending a tremendous amount of money to do so. And I was able to get the adapter so I could keep all my EF lenses and EFS lenses that I currently had. I now have an adapter to shoot with that. So you can see here on the histogram, shot at ISO 100. I like to keep the noise as low as possible, and I was using my 50mm f1.8. So I like this shot. This is my beautiful wife in the picture. It was right at sunset. I like that orange in the sky along with the leaves. It was giving some nice bokeh here, and we just kind of went out in the yard and shot. So you don't have to be super creative, and you don't have to go to a bunch of extravagant places to draw a good photo. We just went out in the yard, and I shot like 4 or 5 different pictures of her that day, and I actually liked them all. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get started with the edit. Normally what I'll do is I'll come over here on the basic edit tab, and that's where you can do your exposure, contrast, clarity, shadows, all that stuff. That all photos I think have to have these basic edits. So we're gonna go ahead and start tampering around. And like I said, guys, there's a million ways to do this, and it just depends on what look you're going for. So we're going to go over here. First thing first, I'm going to go ahead and bump the exposure just a little bit. A lot of times I'll shoot underexposed because I, I don't want it to be too blown out to where I can't bring it back. I feel a lot of times I can make a darker photo brighter easier than I can, try to bring back a shot that's just completely blown out, all over. So on the exposure, we're going to temper around, see what we like here. You can see you can brighten that up way up if you wanted to, and it starts blowing everything out, and you can dim it. But I think I'm going to go somewhere around plus 0.15, not too much, just a little bit. Contrast, I'm going to bring up the contrast a little bit, probably about plus 25. Let's just go ahead and you can double click here and you can type in what values you want, and I think I like that. Um, we're going to go over to highlights. I always kill the highlights as much as possible. See how you get a little more detail up in here without it being so blown out, and it will kind of help her hair and stuff a little bit too by dropping those. So I'm going to drop the highlights down about 65 or 70, somewhere in there. Shadows, I'm going to go ahead and bring the shadows up so you get a little more detail in some of these the front side of her to where the sun's behind her. There is a shadow over her entire side that we're seeing, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring the shadows up. I'm going to go about 45 on that. Um, as far as the whites and the blacks, now a lot of people do this different way. I honestly just do it by eye, and like I said, how I think it looks good. But a tip to that is you can actually hold in the Alt if you're on a Mac, which I am. So you can hold in the Alt key and see when you click on this slider that goes black. Well, this allows you to see exactly where pretty much where the whites or the highlights are on this. And of course, if you do that, it's going to be too blown out. But I always like to drop the whites a little bit, so we're going to go about negative 25, something like that. And like I said, I'm going to do this by eye. And you can do the same on the blacks. You can hold in the Alt key, and it'll show you what you're working with on just the blacks in the picture. And I always like to bring the blacks up a little bit. So we're going to go positive, I don't know, somewhere around 50. Let's see what it looks like. Maybe 55, 50. Yeah, that'll be good right in there. So you can see, see what this does when you slide this. But I like it somewhere around positive 55. Okay, and then next we're going to go down here to clarity. I do like to add a little bit of clarity to some photos. It just depends on what it is, but you're really going to bring out a little more detail. So we're going to bump this up about positive 25. If you go too far, it starts to look fake almost. So we're going to stay right around positive 25. And then vibrance, I do think it lacks a little bit. I want this coat and stuff to really stand out. I want the orange on these leaves and stuff to pop a little bit. So I am going to bring the vibrance up to not much, but let's just see what we like. I feel like that's too much. It starts getting a blue tint all over everything in her hair. So we're going to go about positive, I don't know, 13. That looks good to me. And then on the saturation, I'm actually going to drop a little bit of saturation because I can make up for that here in just a second, and I'll show you guys some. I don't know, somewhere around minus 22. That looks good. Okay. So far we've got the basic edit tabs completed, and you can hit the um, backslash on your keyboard, and it'll give you a before and after. So that's what we started with. That's after. You can see there's not much difference, but we did gain a little bit of detail and in those shadows. So for what I like to do on this picture, it's going to help us out once we get down closer to the end by doing that. So next we're going to move on down to the tone curve. Now this is something that can absolutely change the entire look of your photo. But what I normally like to do is I like to bring the shadows, the blacks is what this is going to do. It's going to crush those blacks. I like to bring that up. You can see, look at the blacks. It affects the entire photo, but if you really look at the blacks, it kind of crushes those blacks and kind of dims them out. Now this is a look that's very popular right now, and that's one of the reasons that I'm kind of messing with it. But I'm going to do that, and I may even bring a little bit of the mids down not much. Let's see. Take this one out. Let's bring that down. Yeah, and I'm gonna leave the highlights up here where they're at. So let's go ahead and see what that did. You can see there how it just kind of gives everything that faded look. Um, like I said, that's something that's kind of popular right now. That look, it's something that I really like. I normally try to do that on 90% of my photos that I take personally. If I'm doing like a portrait for somebody, I try not to do that as much because they may not like that hanging on their wall in their house. But for my photos that I'm going to put on my Instagram, it's just something that I like. I think it gives it a cool kind of almost like a vintage feel to every photo. And so that's what I did here. And you can see it just gives a slight little effect. And it will look better as we continue on in the edit. Um, so next up, we're going to go on down. I'm going to skip all this for right now. We're going to go ahead and go on down to remove chromatic aberrations. This is going to be your lens corrections. So what this is going to do is get rid of any of that, purple fringing and stuff like that, the green and purple fringing, if there is any. I always check it on every photo, whether it fixes it or whether it doesn't. A lot of times you can go back in and fix things yourself, but I click it. You can see there's still some, actually a lot of fringing here. It is what it is. Of course, like I said, I don't have a $5,000 camera, so I'm gonna get things like that with a crop sensor. To me, I can fix this in the HSL slider here in a little bit, or I can even go into Photoshop. But for right now, it's not gonna matter because the next step I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here to my crop, and then I'm gonna go ahead and crop this for Instagram, which is gonna be 4:5 or 8:10. That's gonna give you the most real estate on Instagram. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to crop this one a little different than I did the last one. I'm actually going to bring, I like this. I got a lot of space on her head here, but I did get some bokeh and stuff here. But what I'm really looking at is we want to make sure that, you can see that she's grabbing onto this pine tree limb here. So we definitely want to have a little bit of space above her hand there just so you can kind of grasp what's going on. You could even come on up. Yeah, I like that because I get a little more of those limbs in there. So we're going to go ahead and crop that to that. So there's that. And then back to the lens corrections. You can enable profile corrections. So what that's going to do is it's going to try to fix the lens that you shot with. Every lens is going to have a little bit of distortion, whatever. This is going to try to correct that as much as possible. So if I click on that, you can see kind of straightens out a little bit where I'm shooting a 50 millimeter. It's not warped by any means. Um, and with it being a crop sensor, it's really almost like I guess, 50 times 1.6. You're looking almost like an 86, 85 millimeter, somewhere similar to that. So it's not going to be too warped, but you can see around the edges it got a little bend on it. But what it's mostly doing is it's taking away the natural vignette of the lens. I like that vignette, so I'm not going to check to click that. But that's all personal preference. If you want to get rid of it, you can. But I like the natural vignetting, so we're going to leave that off. Okay, then next we're going to go ahead and we're going to go down here to the camera calibration. We're going to start messing with colors now. We're going to do some camera calibration and we're going to go to the HSL sliders and the split toning. And we're going to start playing with the colors and giving this thing the feel and the look that I want it to have. So down here at the camera calibration, what we're going to do is I'm going to leave the shadows alone for right now. Pretty much this is going to give you a purple or a green tint to the shadows in the photo. I kind of like the way the tint is right now, so I'm not going to mess with that. The reds I may tamper with. You can see here it's going to change the color of the reds in the picture. So she obviously has a red coat on, and I don't want it to be an orange coat. So I'm not going to mess with it too much, but I am going to try to make that coat a little more red. So we're at 0 here. I want it to be a little bit more pop to it, so I'm going to bring that down to about -17. That looks good. And then you can adjust saturation here. I'm kind of going to leave that alone right now. I think that looks pretty good. Come on down to the green primary. I do think when you slide this, if you've got reds in your photo, it kind of adds to those colors and you kind of start getting that cinematic look to it. So I do like this on this photo at least, and I am going to raise that up to about positive 17. Once again, you can adjust saturation. That gets a little too much for me, so I'm going to leave it where it's at. And then on the blue primary, I like taking everything towards the teal color. You know, the orange and teal is very popular right now as well, but I like it because it kind of gives everything that cinematic feel. It just kind of looks more professional to me. It makes it look like it's more than just a photo that was taken, you know, with a any old camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this blues down toward the teal section quite a bit until I get the look I'm wanting. And you can see there, see how it's even starting to give that teal color in the shadows. So I'm gonna go probably somewhere around negative 60. Yeah. So I like that, and then I'm gonna probably leave saturation alone. Yeah, saturation is gonna stay at 0. So far, let's look and see. There's where we're at now. That's what the photo started at. That's what we're at now. So it's not a huge difference. I mean, you can see um, on the original photo a lot of the shadows, and like you can see in her hair, there's a little bit of a purple like fringe look to it. And by doing what we just did, we're kind of adding that cinematic, you know, almost teal and orange kind of flair to it, along with the blacks being crushed. I think it looks good, and it's what I wanted to go for. So pretty happy so far. Next, we're gonna slide up to the split toning adjustment, and that's actually gonna be right here. And you can see split toning. This is gonna be what affects the coloring of the highlights and the shadows, and this is another way that you can add to that cinematic look. Um, so what we're gonna do is normally what I'll do is I'll take on, for instance, the highlights. I'll go ahead and take saturation and bump it all the way up. And what I do is that gives me a really good representation of what color I'm fixing to put on this photo. So I'll bump that one all the way up, and I'm gonna take probably I want that orange look, so I'm gonna go right around in here 36. That's got a really nice orange look, and you can see here it's kind of demonstrating what color is laying over top of your photo. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm going to bring it back down because I don't want it to be pumped that much orange on there, but I'm going to keep that around here. That's just pretty much the strength of that hue that you're putting on it. And then we're going to go down here to the shadows, and I want this to be somewhere around that teal color, so it's going to be right in here somewhere. 203. That should be fine. And let's bump that up and see what we've got. Yep. So see, now I've got that orange and blue, orange and teal color going. But I don't want this one to be too overpowering, so I'm going to bring it back down to about, I don't know, 4 or 5. And then this here is going to balance. So this is going to bring more of your shadow color out. This is going to bring more of your highlight color out. I want to come down just a little bit. I don't want it to be too over orange. So let's go somewhere in here. If I come down too much with the shadows, it starts to color her hair blue. I don't want that. I think the warmth color in her hair looks better. So I'm not going to drop that too far. We'll just stick with -4. So let's go back to the original photo. So there's what out of the camera looks like. And here's where we're at now. It's already getting that Instagram banger feeling, which is what we all love to see, or at least I do. But so here's this so far. Um, Next, I normally come on down here since I'm right here at it. You can add sharpening to your photo. This is all going to be kind of how you want it to look. I don't like the photo to look too fake. I don't like it to be over sharp, but I don't like a photo to have a lot of um, blur in it, which you can tell here. This is zoomed way in, so there's going to be blur no matter what when you're, looking at the pixels this close. But Another trick, like we used back up at the basics, is you can hold in Alt and click on the masking right here under the sharpening tabs. You can hold Alt and click on the masking slider, and this is going to show you, so everything that is white is what is going to be sharpened. So if you do this, the whole entire photo is going to be sharpened, and you're going to start getting a little bit of grainy look out of everything. I normally bring that up until I get it to where you're pretty much just getting the edges of your subject, which I want her to be nice and sharp. So I'm trying to get it to where just the edges of her. If I bring it here, that's too much. I'm going to start getting a lot of noise back here in the background and stuff. So I try to get it up here, and on this photo, it's actually going to be probably all the way to 100. So it's just going to be her right here that's going to be sharp. And then you can see here, you can turn this down and turn this up. I like to bring it up. You can see it when you click on Alt on here. It's going to put it in black and white, and it kind of helps give you a representation. Let me try this. Watch her nose right here whenever I do this. You can see how sharp it gets. See how there's a little bit of a fade to it there. And then when you bring it up, it sharpens that up. So I'm going to go about 51 on that, just to give a little bit of sharpness around these edges on her coat and stuff and her face. Also, if you do have a little bit of noise in your photo, like here, there's a little bit of noise. It's gonna happen unless you've got thousands and thousands of dollars in a setup. So a lot of times I'll just bring this up, and it does kind of help hide some of that stuff, but it's not that big of a deal on this photo. Okay, and then that's gonna lead us into the HSL sliders. So essentially what this is your hue, saturation, and luminance sliders. Um, your hue is, depending on this slider, you're going to change the color of this red, the color of this orange, so forth and so forth and so on. So let's go ahead and start with these, and I'll do what I kind of feel I think this photo needs. I like the color of the reds. I like the colors of the oranges, so I'm not going to tamper with that. Now, if you do start messing with these oranges, that's where you're going to start affecting skin color. So if you kind of watch her skin on this red and orange, it does affect it a little bit. This one not so much because there's so much other red and orange in this picture. I'm not going to tamper with those. I might bring the blues down a little bit. I see some blues in her hair and stuff here. So I kind of want to bring that more towards the teal. I'm going for that teal and orange look, so I'm going to try to stick with that. So let me see what looks better. Yeah, I don't want her hair to be that discolored, so I'm actually going to go up with it about positive 12 or 13. That kind of more neutralizes the natural color of her hair. I may even mess with the aqua a little bit. Let's see. Let's go up with the aqua. Positive 12. Let me see what this does now. Yeah. Okay, so I'm actually going to bring both of those about 12. It balances out that. Um, then we're going to go, that's good. I don't want to change anything else on that. We're going to go down to saturation. I am going to bump up that blue saturation a little bit. It's probably, I don't know, maybe we might bring it down. Yeah, let's bring the blue down. That gets rid of that in her hair completely. You see what I'm saying? On her hair and a little bit of the background, that's got that. See how it's blue? This is extreme, but I don't want that in her hair necessarily. So I'm going to bring the blues down about negative 30. And I like that. Yep, I like the look of this. All right, now luminance, what it's going to do is it's going to brighten up the color that you desire. So if you want the reds to be brighter, which I do, so I'm going to go ahead and start sliding this red up. Now look at her coat. It almost gets rid of the shadows just on her coat because we're only messing with the reds. So anything that's red colored is going to be brightened up. I think it really makes it pop on this picture. So I like that all the way up. I like the way that makes her coat right in through the arm here, and some of these shadows out on the front. It just makes it stand out and makes her more known as the subject in this photo, if you couldn't tell already. So I'm going to go ahead and bump that up. Orange, I'm probably going to bring that up a little bit too, somewhere around +50. Yep. And once again, that's just going to brighten everything up. Yellows, let's see what it'll do. You can see in the background here. That I don't like because you're getting these harsh kind of lines. So let's bring that up until that's about gone. I like it somewhere in there. See how smooth everything is here now? Everything is kind of together. Greens, you can see. I don't like having the big blotches here. You can kind of see those. So I'm going to bring those greens up to help blend everything here. Aqua. We do have a lot of aqua in this photo. Once again in her hair and everything. And then you can see if I lower that down, it just kind of makes everything flat on her hair. So let's bring the aqua up. I like it all the way up. It makes these highlights here stand out, and it makes these whites back here white again. Blue, I'm probably going to bring the blue up. Once again, does the same thing. You can see it in her hair, how much it helps bring out those highlights. So I'm going to probably bring blue up quite a bit until I like it. Somewhere 65, 70 looks, yeah, that looks good. Then we're going to get down here into the purple and magentas. We hadn't really messed with any of those yet. Other than I said, I did have some fringing going on up in here earlier, which you can still see a little bit of it. But even with that being said, I'm going to bring some of the purples up. And probably going to bring some of the magentas up as well. You can see that in her face. I like this. This looks more natural to me than that. Bringing this coloring up, the magentas up, really brightens her cheek here. If you'll watch right there where her cheek is. If it down here is a little bit of a shadow, but this more or less makes the skin tone look a lot better. So I'm going to bring magenta up probably somewhere around here. And same thing with this purple, as you can see it on her face where it's just a shadow. I'm going to bring that up and it kind of gets rid of this shadow on her face. So that, to me, that looks really good. So let's go ahead and do it before and after. I'm pretty sure we're done with this. I don't see anything else that I necessarily want to fix. I may, no, I think we're good. I think we can always come up here to the temperature if you want it to be a little bit more, bright or a little bit more dim, but I kind of like it somewhere right in there where we was at. I think that looks good. So here's a before picture and here's after the edit. As you can tell, it's quite a bit different. We really just made everything on the picture just pop more or less. Um, I like the look of this orange kind of glow to it because we do have that sun back here naturally. But as you can tell where the sun was going over the horizon, this is actually a mountain back here. We're not getting absolute direct rays of sun right in here and on the background right behind her. Um, so by doing this, it actually makes it look like more or less the sun's still shining really hard over here without getting those harsh highlights. So I like the way this turned out. If you guys liked it, let me know. And if you guys want to see some more videos like this, like I said, I'm thinking about trying to start doing a Let's Edit series maybe once a week, sometimes more, just depends on how much I get to shoot. Um, so, for instance, this photo here, I think it would be ready to export and possibly be put on Instagram, which, like I said, it already has been, but like all my other photos, I'm going to export this out, and I've got my specific folder I would like to put this in. Gonna go here, documents. Let's actually go to specific folder, and I always try to put it in the Instagram bangers. That way I know it's ready to be uploaded to Instagram. And we're just going to make sure all the settings here, we want our quality all the way up. I normally leave resolution at 300, and then this would be ready to export, which it's already there, so I'm going to cancel. But there you go, guys. Feel free to leave any comments here if there's something you've seen that I did that might be an easier way to do it. Please, by all means, let me know. Like I said, I'm still rather new to all this, but if you feel like you wanted to see some more of these, be sure to let me know in the comments, and go ahead and hit that subscribe and like button if you guys don't care. And I will catch you all on the next one.